The waist-to-hip ratio is an important factor in determining your general health and risk of developing cardiovascular-related diseases. Doctors use the waist-to-hip ratio as a way to measure the body fat distribution in the abdomen and hips. The waist-to-hip ratio calculator is used by specialists as an alternative to the body mass index, which requires measuring height and weight using a BMI calculator. Waist-to-hip ratio is a formula used to measure how much fat is being stored in the abdomen and how much is stored in the hips and legs. It is generally expressed as a decimal with a value of less than 1 in healthy individuals. The waist-to-hip formula can be written as WTH equals waist circumference, hip circumference. How to measure your waist-to-hip ratio. To measure your waist-to-hip ratio, follow these 3 simple steps. 1. Measure your waist circumference in centimeters. 2. Measure your hip circumference in centimeters. 3. Divide your waist circumference by your hip circumference. Your waist-to-hip ratio is the result of this calculation. You can also calculate your waist-to-hip ratio for men or women using the waist-to-hip ratio calculator and compare your results against the free waist-to-hip ratio chart. Seeing the link in the video description to access these resources. What is an ideal waist-to-hip ratio? Health experts recommend a waist-to-hip ratio, WTH, of 1.0 or less in men, and 0.9 or less in women. The ideal waist-to-hip ratio is 0.7. Women with a waist-to-hip ratio of 0.7 or more are considered to be in ideal health and at the lowest risk for obesity-related health problems. For women with hip-to-waist ratio greater than 0.8, their body fat is stored in their hips and legs, they are at a higher risk of obesity-related health problems.